Hi everyone, this is Danny from the Web Seller Circle. I'm here today with Cindy Shebley, and we're going to do a 1-hour webinar about using PayPal as the simplest, easiest way to get paid with no upfront investments. Now, PayPal does offer a very stripped-down, simple shopping cart, but what's more of interest to us today than the shopping cart is their Buy It Now buttons. We talked in our last e-commerce webinar series about how to use a shopping cart without knowing any coding, how to integrate it into a WordPress created site, and then use PayPal as the gateway to receive payments. We didn't go into how the PayPal payment system works all by itself. In this class, we're going to look at PayPal more as a standalone solution than as a shopping cart. PayPal has some obvious advantages and disadvantages. If you're trying to transition some of your regular buyers from eBay to your own website, in other words, you're trying to change them from eBay buyers to your buyers, they're already familiar with PayPal. They probably already have a PayPal account or are used to relying on it for its safety and security. And they probably feel that it's a very familiar interface that they can trust, so they won't hesitate to make payments to you. It's simple and easy to use and simple to set up for both the buyer and the seller. There's a very low barrier of entry for using PayPal to accept payments. You don't have to jump through a lot of hoops or go over hurdles that can stop you if you're applying for a regular merchant account. With PayPal, you basically just need an email address and a website and a verifiable bank account, and you will be accepted into the program and be ready to accept payments on that same day. The PayPal fees are predictable and pretty straightforward and easy to understand. Unlike some merchant accounts that might have a 30 or 40-page fee agreement, you'll know what to expect when you get your statement from PayPal, how much of each transaction will stay with you and how much will be going to PayPal itself. Of course, like anything when it comes to the Internet, or indeed to banking, there are disadvantages. Now, because PayPal is associated with eBay and owned by eBay, there are, of course, the eBay haters and the PayPal haters who will just refuse to use PayPal. You don't want to argue with these people, especially if they're your customers. So you may want to have some backup system like perhaps Google Checkout in place in those rare instances where you'll have to have an alternative to PayPal. Additionally, PayPal seems to hold on to your money a little longer than necessary. With a merchant account, you usually have access to your payment as soon as it's made. With PayPal, you'll know if you've used it on eBay. It can take 3 or 4 days after you transfer the money from your PayPal account to your banking account before you actually receive the money. I'm not going to get into whether this is good or bad, right or wrong. It's just a fact of life, and you need to plan for it. Be aware if you're using PayPal as your sole method of getting paid that there will be a time lag between the time the buyer hits the Pay Now button and the time that money's available for you to spend somewhere else. Also, PayPal seems sometimes from the buyer's point of view, sometimes from the seller's point of view, to be kind of arbitrary in their dealings. They may have chargebacks that you feel are totally unfair. You've made the sale, you've shipped the product, and suddenly PayPal reaches in and takes back the money. Or they may even freeze your account if they feel there's some sort of fraudulent activity. In fact, these are not the kinds of transaction problems that are unique to PayPal. If you had a merchant account, you would eventually run into the same problem. So don't let them overly disturb you. Just know that it's there, and in fact, it's working for the protection of both you and your buyer. Because PayPal has such a low barrier to entry, they have to be hyper-vigilant when it comes to fraud. So they're more likely to freeze your account and then ask questions and unfreeze it than perhaps a bank that has required you to keep a certain balance in your account so that they don't have to worry about chargebacks. There is a PayPal dispute resolution and PayPal Help Center. Just make sure you're familiar with it so that if something should happen, you won't be scrambling both to try to find out where to get your help and where to get your money. So when you total up the pros and cons of using PayPal as your primary system, I think you'll see that the pros do outweigh the cons in several situations. Now, if you have a large store and you have lots of items and your buyers are more likely to want to use credit cards in a shopping cart, perhaps PayPal's not your best choice, or if it's your only choice. In that case, I'd suggest you go back and review that e-commerce series, How to Have a Full E-commerce Site Without Writing a Line of Code, and look again into the simple shopping cart that we suggested in that series. But if you're selling collectibles, a small number of items, if you don't want to set up a merchant account with all of the attendant paperwork and fees that are associated with that, and believe me, if you think PayPal fees are high, you'll be shocked at how much your bank can take out in merchant fees, you may find that PayPal is exactly what you need. In that case, relying on PayPal as your main gateway for payments would make sense. So Cindy is going to walk us through the PayPal merchant services for businesses and show us some of the ins and outs, including how to create Buy Now buttons, how to set up shopping cart buttons, how to set up invoices, and invoice templates, which you can customize landing pages, and even customize buttons. Once she's shown us how all that works, I'll come back and show you how easy it is to then add these things to a website. Now, you may have heard it's very hard to integrate PayPal into WordPress, and it's true, it used to be. But now, if all you're trying to use is a Buy Now button or even a Donate button, it's much easier to use PayPal, and we'll demonstrate that at the end. So let me switch this over to Cindy, and we'll get started. Are you ready, Cindy?
You bet I am.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Cindy Shevely. We are going to talk about the PayPal merchant services. Now, when you get into the merchant services, you're going to see that there are different solutions in the Merchant Service Center. So I wanted to go over those really quickly with you before I start demonstrating how to set up some of this stuff. The website payment standard is what you're going to be most familiar with or see most often. It is just a part of your merchant or seller account on PayPal. This allows you to accept payments from shoppers on your blog, website, or other web property. Payment options include, the Buy Now button for single items, or you can add a shopping cart for multiple items or variations. And both buttons also allow you to charge different prices for variables like size and color and that sort of thing. Also, as part of the website payment standard that PayPal offers, there is subscribe buttons for recurring payments. You can even set up any length between the payments and the trial subscriptions and offer trial subscriptions if you want. There's also a donate button that you can set up on your site, and of course people love to donate when they know that their payments are securely encrypted. So that is the standard that is available to any seller on PayPal. Of course, there is a fee for using it. It's not a subscription service. It's offered for free. But if you do accept payments, you will pay that 30 cents per transaction. And depending on how much volume you bring in, a certain amount, like 2.8% of the transaction total for accepting the payment. Again, that does depend on the different volume amount that you are bringing in per month. Now, there is another solution that PayPal offers, and it's called the Payment Pro. Now, this is more like a traditional merchant account. This service lets you offer customers the ability to either pay with PayPal like they're used to. If they like PayPal, they can hit a button that says pay with PayPal, and they go through that PayPal payment process, or you can let them stay on your site and they can purchase with a credit card by staying on your site and putting in that information in a securely encrypted site right on your website. And of course, as a merchant, that's a big bonus because you're not letting your traffic leave your site. You're keeping them on your own site. Now, this is very much like using a payment gateway. In fact, it is a payment gateway, just like you would get from your bank account, your regular banking service. Now, Danny and I use a payment gateway for the web seller circle called Authorized Net, which allows us to accept that money for subscriptions through a securely encrypted site, and that's what a payment gateway allows you to do. And just like Danny was talking about with those payment gateways, the bank service charges can be all over the place. Like, we pay a different amount for people who use those American Express cards, or if they use a debit card, we get charged a different price than if they use a credit card with cash back offered on it. So there's all different sorts of payments or different levels of payments we pay. And sometimes when we look at our statement, we're a little bit surprised at the amount of money that our payment gateway can get away with. However, with this PayPal service, they charge a flat fee. Doesn't matter which credit card the user uses. And according to what I've read on PayPal, it translates to about a 12% savings over using a bank authorized payment gateway. But the other big bonus to this is that you don't have to go to your bank and go through all of the necessary paperwork to become authorized. If you're a PayPal user, you go through the familiar PayPal interface to become authorized for offering this payment gateway. And the other bonus is that it integrates with Pro Stores and Yahoo stores and GoDaddy.com, which are the most common shopping cart services that we're likely to use. Now, there's also a virtual terminal available, which means that if you don't sell a lot on the internet, you want to accept payments via phone or fax or mail, you can accept those payments by collecting the credit card information, the CSV information, and the expiration date and the amount. Now, what you do is you'll come into PayPal and put that information in. PayPal authorizes the transaction and puts the money into your PayPal account. Now, this is not a free service. It costs $30 a month, plus 30 cents per transaction and 3.1% of the total. Not bad, though. I've been in instances where I teach and I sell those workbooks that go along with the eBay classes, and oftentimes I'll get asked, do I accept credit cards? And this would be a way for me to simply accept credit cards, just take down the information, come back to PayPal and put that information in. So virtual terminal can be a a way to accept credit cards without having to get that physical terminal and then again go through all that rigmarole that you have to do to get authorized to use these terminals. When Danny and I had the garden store, we had to go through a lot to get a terminal, including having an inspector come to our store to make sure that there was a physical presence that payment terminal was going into. So that's the different services that PayPal offers. Let's go ahead and start setting up some of this stuff. And let's start with setting up our preferences. Now you may be familiar with this. We're logged into PayPal, and under My Account there is a Profile tab. If you just click on Profile, it will bring you to this page. And you can see all the different information. You've got your financial information, your account information. But what we're interested in today is setting up the selling preferences. What I'm going to do is start setting up these selling preferences so that they will integrate with my Buy Now or Shopping Cart button. So the first place we're going to start is with the sales tax. I'm going to click on this. Now, some states don't charge sales tax, so you're not going to have to worry about that. This is going to be sort of an individual thing for each and every one of us, depending on which state we live in. Now, to add a new state, again, if you charge sales tax, you will charge sales tax at this point. You're only going to charge sales tax to other purchasers in your same state. And it also depends from state to state how you're going to charge this tax. Now, in some states, you charge your sales tax based on the seller location. In that case, you would only need to pick the location of the state you're in. Let's say you were in Arizona. You would pick Arizona. You would put in the amount that you needed to charge, one flat rate based on your seller location. And then you would check this button if you needed to apply it to the shipping amount. Now, I can't tell you from state to state whether that's applicable or not. You're going to have to visit your state's Department of Revenue to know that. Now, there are a few states, and Washington State is among those few states where we charge what's called destination-based sales tax, which means instead of charging tax based on the seller's location, I have to charge tax based on my buyer's location. So what I need to do is set up a way to charge the correct tax based on my buyer's location. And here in Washington State, there are over 300 different jurisdictions. So this is a very simple shopping cart. So the best thing that we can do to get it as close as possible or as accurate as possible is to choose this one where we can set it up by zip code instead of state. So I'm just going to click on zip code. And now I can put in the zip code and specifically how much I need to charge. So I'm going to start with Marysville, which is right above me, and their zip code, right north of me, I should say, 98270. And they charge 8.6% sales tax. And in Washington State, we do apply it to the shipping amount. So I've got that in. I can create another by simply clicking on Create Another. And again, I click on zip code. At this time, I'm going to set up the one for Seattle. Now, Seattle's a very large city, so there are a number of zip codes. So I'm going to choose range. And the range is 98101 to 98199. And their tax rate is 9.5% of the price, and then we have to apply the shipping rate to the rate to the shipping amount as well. So now I've got them covered. I just create another. And now I'm going to do Everett as well. And let's say their range is 98203 to 98208. And I know these names sound kind of odd if you don't live in the Washington state, but that's the name of a lot of our cities. And they're 9.2%, and they also apply it to the shipping amount. And now I've got the different zip codes set up. Now I'm not going to bore you as you watch me go through 300 of these, but I hope that you've got the idea that you can set up these based on zip codes as well. So for your state, this is an alternative. Once you're ready to finish, you just click on Continue. And now we've got these different domestic sales tax rates set up. Now, set up international sales tax rates. I think this is probably something that's going to be more something down the road than anything that we have to worry about right now. As far as I know, we don't have to be responsible for collecting VAT taxes and things like that for international sales. But if we do find that we are responsible for that, we would set up these international sales tax rates. Now, going back to the profile, the next thing that we want to set up is our shipping calculator right below the sales tax. So we're going to click on Shipping Calculations. And again, we have domestic and international shipping. And we've got a default one here for all states and territories. So I'm going to add another shipping method. And now, if you know, again, this is a fairly simple calculator. It's not like the calculator on the eBay Sell Your Item form where you can put in the dimensions and the weight and your zip code, and it integrates with the United States Post Office or UPS to tell your buyers the exact amount that you're charging for shipping. This is a little bit different. It's a little bit stripped down, and it will take a little bit of figuring out and research on your part. So you can either charge per state once you figure out the zones and how much it's going to cost to ship that item, or you can set up sort of a flat rate shipping. And that's what I'm going to do here. To all states and territories, I'm going to choose that and click on Add. And now we've got it over here and in our selected states. It's all states and territories. And I'm going to click on Continue. And now I want to name this shipping method. And here are all of my different methods that I can offer. And you may want to set up several of these. Maybe you sell a lot of books. Maybe you want to do a book rate, or that would be economy. Or you might want to do next day to offer your buyers a service that they get it next day, or pick up, or you do priority mail, whichever works for your business. And you may want to set up as many of these as you need for your business. I'm going to set up one that's called economy right now. And because it is economy, I've got in mind that this is going to be not priority or second day air. So I want to let my buyers know, how long it's going to take for them to get it. And I'm going to choose from the drop-down menu 2 to 7 business days. Now I have a choice of how we're going to calculate this shipping rate. I'm going to calculate it either on the total order amount, that's how much the buyer purchases, the total order weight, and when you set up your PayPal button, buy now or shopping cart button, you're going to have to make sure you fill in that weight parameter to make this work, or your total item quantity. For today's sample, I'm going to go ahead and put in total order weight. Now, this is going to give me a range from 1 ounce to what? And I'm going to say 1 ounce to 3 pounds. I'm going to charge $4.95. From 3 pounds, 1 ounce, to 4 pounds, I'm going to charge $5.95. And from 4 pounds to 5 pounds, I'm going to charge $6.95. And anything from 5 pounds to 6 pounds, I'm going to charge $7.95. And anything from 6 pounds up, it's going to be $8.95. But you can see we can put in a fair rate of weights here. So I've got that. I'm ready to get this set up, so I'm going to click on Continue. And now this is going to charge all of states in the United States based on shipping weight, these amounts. So I'm going to save the shipping method. Now the thing about this domestic shipping methods is that if somebody outside the United States purchases from me, what's going to happen if I leave the international shipping methods unchecked is that it's going to charge me zero. It's going to not charge me, it's going to charge my buyer zero, or it's going to show up as zero shipping. And as we all know, that's going to kind of eat into our profit margins. So we definitely have to set up a shipping for international. So really quickly, I'm going to go in and set up one for international. And again, you can set it up by different locations depending on, but for right now I'm going to again choose all countries and territories and continue. Well, let's just call it worldwide shipping. And because it is first class, it is not going to be the fastest shipping, but it's certainly not going to be the slowest shipping. So I'm going to tell my international buyers to expect it in 1 to 2 weeks. That may be really kind of pushing it a bit, but you know, I want them to think they're going to get it eventually or fairly soon. And if they don't get it in 1 to 2 weeks, we need to start trying to figure something out. So again, for my first class shipping international, it's going to be 1 to 3 pounds is going to be $24.50. 3 to 4 pounds is going to be $32. Up to 5 pounds is going to be $45. And 5 to 6 pounds is going to be $56. And let's say from 6 to anywhere up, well, let's just jump up to $99. And we are ready to roll with that. Click Continue. And now we have, we can review this to make sure we have the settings we want, and then we can save the shipping method. And now we have domestic and international shipping methods set up. Back to the profile. So if we are ready to roll, we've got our sales tax and shipping calculation set up. So we could go directly to the PayPal button right now and start setting up PayPal button and the shopping cart button. But we might want to do a couple other things before we leave this page. One thing I want to show you really quickly is this custom payment pages. Here you can set up a custom page that is branded to your look. Now, what I mean by this is that you can upload your image, your logo. So if we have a logo, we can host it on your website, or you can host it on PhotoBucket or wherever you do your photo hosting. You would put the URL here, including the HTTP. It must be no bigger than 750 pixels by 900 or 90 pixels high, not 900. 750 pixels wide by 90 pixels high. That will show up right above the invoice. When somebody clicks on that to go pay, they'll see your logo instead of the PayPal. So again, it's branded to your look. You can also change the background color from white to match your website as well as the header border and the header background color. So all of this can be set up to brand your look. And again, that's that pop-up box when somebody hits Pay Now, and you've probably all seen it because you've all used PayPal, I have no doubt, to pay for something. So you've seen that box that pops up, and this is where you can customize it to look like your website and your branding. And when you've got it all set up, you can just hit save, and now every time somebody uses your PayPal button to purchase something, they will see that branding. We can set up invoice templates as well, and this is if you bill somebody, the same person, for the same amount over and over again, or if you have one item that you send out invoices for continuously, you could set up an invoice template so you don't have to go and send an invoice or create an invoice every time you set it up. So let's just go ahead and add one really quickly. And this is the whole process you would go through to send an invoice as well. So you get to the new invoice and you click Continue. And we're going to name this WSC Yearly whoops, I guess I better spell that a little better. Yearly Membership. Now I can include my address here and my phone number if I want people to be able to contact me. And now here we want to put in who's going to receive this invoice. I'm going to send one to that Cindy at Clover City. She needs to pay up for her yearly membership. Or I can choose people who are in my contact list. Now the invoice details is going to be US dollars. The type is for a service. It's not really a hard product, so I would call it a service. And I'm just going to call this 1 year membership. I probably want to leave a nice note. And you know, thank people and a little brief note. And then we set up the invoice. We can use a unique identifier and describe what it is. And we can put in the price. Now here we can decide if it's taxable, and if it is, we can put in the sales tax rate that we need to tax for the yearly membership. We'd also put in a shipping rate if it was hard goods. And once I have that set up, I click Continue. And now I can save it as a template. So if I want to come back in and send another one, I would simply go to Request Money, and it would bring me to this Invoice Templates again, and it would ask, do you want to set up one by setting it up, or do you want to use your WSC yearly membership template? And it's kind of nice if you do repetitive billing where you're doing the same recurring billing over and over again. You just simply change the recipient, or if it was the same recipient, you would leave it the same. Going back to the profile, we can add a customer service message. And this is simply if somebody needs to contact you or they're about to contact PayPal for dispute resolution, you may want to intercept them before they do that. So maybe here is where you would want to put a message, well, like they give in the example, your satisfaction is our top priority. If you have a problem with this transaction, contact us at this phone number before you open that dispute, and we will make every effort to contact you and get this settled within 2 business days. It's a great little customer service message. So you can set that up here, and that'll show if somebody is trying to find out more information about you or are about to set up a dispute against you for some reason or another. One thing before we head off to now create the button, because we've set up our calculator and our sales tax, I want to mention really quickly is this PayPal Shops. Once you have your website set up and you've got a PayPal button on it, come over here in the profile and set up your information, including the URL. Now, I'm not sure how much traffic you're going to specifically get from people going through the PayPal Shops, but we all know that links from authority sites are so very important for Google. So here is like a free card to get into that ranking. So do come in here and put your URL and describe that website so that you are part of the PayPal Shops, another place to really quickly put in the information or your URL. So come in here and do it. So now we've got, like I say, we've got our shipping set up and our sales tax set up. So we are ready to set up a PayPal button. Now again, this is an optional thing. You don't have to set these up, but in a state like Washington, having this all set up, especially the sales tax, is going to make it a lot easier to get this PayPal button set up. But you'll see as we set up the button that you can do it on the fly as well. So let's head over to the Merchant Service tab. And here we have a whole lot of different links. We talked about the virtual terminal. And if I click on this Send Invoice, again, you'll see we can create a new invoice, or we can use the one from our saved template. Here's our WSC yearly membership. Now, we also have an Add to Cart button and a Buy Now button, so we can choose either one of these. But I want to take a second and explain something to you. Now, a Buy Now button is designed for an item, a single item. It may have variations, but it's a single item. Let's say it's a book that you're offering, the same book, Easy Auction Photography, but I have it on CD, or you can buy a color copy or a black and white copy, or you can buy an ebook. All of those different variations of the same thing I could set up with a Buy Now button. But if you have a number of different items, let's say my 5 Steps to Success, the eBay Marketing Bible, Easy Auction Photography, Web Seller Circles memberships, different things that people can purchase all in one setting from one website, I want to use an Add to Cart button. Now, if you use an Add to Cart button, it is essentially setting up the same button, the same Buy Now button, but there's going to be an extra piece of code at the end that you're going to have to add to either your CSS style sheet, or if you have an HTML page, you're going to have to add it to each and every HTML page on your website. Now, this is why we really encourage you to use that plugin with WordPress, because if you are using that plugin, that e-commerce plugin that we're talking about, you don't have to worry about this extra step and getting this extra add to cart code into your website so people can view the contents of their cart. So that's the difference. So let's just go ahead and set this up so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. Hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense to you. So I'm going to click on Add to Cart. It doesn't matter actually which button I clicked on there to come to this page. It's going to be the same. Watch here. See this Add to Cart button? I go through the drop-down menus. Here's my Buy Now button. Here's the Donation button. So if I wanted people to donate to me, you can see it's changing. There's gift certificates. There's a subscription button. I'm not going to go into depth in describing this subscription button, but I do know that there are some people who are interested in doing memberships and subscription services. So really quickly, the one thing that I want to mention here is that if you click this button to have PayPal create username and password for the customers, you're going to have, if you don't know Perl programming, you're going to hire somebody who does, because they're going to have to add some code into your website. So it's better to leave this unchecked and assign users their names and passwords after you receive their money. So just leave that unchecked. And also you can set up the amount that you want, and there are also billing cycles, day, week, month, or year, so depending on which kind of subscription service you have. And you can also say how often you want the cycles to last and when you want them to end. You can offer a trial period, like we did for a while with Web Seller Circle. You know, you can have 21 days for $1, and you can set that up here as well in this subscription service offered through PayPal. There's two others that I'm going to tell you about, but I'm not going to really show you, and that's the automatic billing. And that automatic billing is designed for a user who consumes different amounts of something during the month. And the best thing that comes to mind right now is like a utility bill. Let's say an electric company wants to use PayPal for their payments. So I use different amounts of electricity depending on the time of year. So this would integrate with that electric company, where the electric company could automatically bill me the correct amount every month. And then we have what's called the installment plan, and this is more like a layaway plan you may all be familiar with. You want to purchase something, you go to a store and you say, I'm going to give you XYZ, can you hold this until I can pay the rest? And you can set up different increments for this installment plan. Now these two options, the automatic billing and the installment plan, are being offered on PayPal right now for free. You do have to subscribe to the service as a merchant, and what I mean by free is you're still going to pay that transaction fee, but after 2010 is over, starting January 1st, 2011, there's going to be an additional monthly service charge to use these two. Just like we did with the virtual terminal, they're going to be a subscription offered through PayPal. But what we want to do right now, again, is get back to the shopping cart button. So I'm going to click on the shopping cart button and show you how to set this up. Now I'm going to set up a Hardig. It's a type of case that I sell that protects cameras from being damaged. It's a waterproof case. So I'm going to call it the Hardig Storm Camera Case, and I can set up an item number, and this is totally up to you and your inventory what your item number is and what you assign to it. So this is for your purposes only. Now the price is $179.95. I can offer variables to this. So I can offer, let's say, different colors. In fact, I can even charge different amounts for the different variables, such as small, medium, and large, or extra large, you pay a little bit extra. So in this demonstration, I'm going to do colors. My first option is going to be yellow. You can see how it's already set this up for me at 179. And then gray at 179 and black. But let's say I have a ton of blacks and I want to offer them at a little bit less or a reduced price to get some of these moving. So I can change that price option to 159. Now you can offer a couple of different options. I just click done, and I can add another drop down. So again, if you were doing, let's say, a shirt, you could offer the different size shirts, and then you can also add a second option where they could choose the color. We're just going to do color today, but that's what that's for. There's also a text field where you could ask or ask for customization. First thing that comes to mind is monograms. Perhaps I would offer this to be monogrammed with the person's name. I could add a text field where they could fill out, for them to fill out. And we can customize the appearance, not a whole lot, but we can, change it to a smaller button, or we could change the language to a different language if we had a different audience. You can also add your own button here. You would create it, and Danny's going to show you a really neat trick on creating buttons here in a few minutes. You would upload it to your website or to PhotoBucket or wherever you host your pictures, and then you would put the URL here for that button. And so right now we're just going to use the PayPal button. And now we have the shipping. And you see here, I've got this weight already set up, and it's going to use this based on the weights that I set up in that shipping calculations. So the weight here is, let's say it's 5 pounds. Now if I didn't want to use what I had already set up, I could click this radio button and specify a specific amount. And to be honest with you, most of the PayPal buttons that I set up for my websites are I use this specific amount because I sell a lot of things like CDs and books and things like that. So I just set up a specific amount and plan on sending it medium mail or first class. But you do have this choice. And here we go, the same thing with tax. Because I've set up those profiles, it's automatically set here so that it will charge that amount based on what I set up in my tax profile. Of course, I didn't quite get it all finished because this was a demo for you all, so maybe I just want to make sure that I charge enough tax to everybody, so I can say I'm going to charge 9.5 to the whole, to everybody in Washington State, and I'll rebate the tax that needs to be rebated. So I could do that as well. Now I have a choice, and I would say use PayPal's choice here, my secure merchant ID as opposed to my primary email address. We'll cut down on the spam and keep it encrypted. Step 2 is setting up the information about this. You can track your inventory. In other words, you can a physical product like this, we're not going to want to oversell it. So we can say I have, let's say, 5 of these in stock, and when I get down to 2, I want PayPal to send me an alert that I'm down to 2 so I can reorder. Well, I've had 5 of these gray, and again, send me an alert when I get down to 2. But remember, I've got the black ones. I got a ton of those, so I have 10 of those in stock, and I want, again, to be alerted when I'm down to the last 2. I can also choose track profit and loss here. And this is completely up to you, whether you want to do it through PayPal or you want to do it through through your bookkeeping services, through an Excel spreadsheet or QuickBooks. Well, let's just say these cost me $100 each. Oops, that says a 0 each. And I can then I can watch the profit and loss, get a report from PayPal. Now, do I want the customers to be able to buy an item after it's sold out? Well, that's totally up to you. You know, the marketers will say, oh yeah, you want to, say you're selling an ebook and you say it's only available to the first 100. Well, if 120 people want to buy it, you bet you want to sell it even past that amount. But if it's a physical product, I'd really rather not have to deal with worrying about getting them out if I don't know when I'm going to get them back in stock. So I'm going to say, no, I don't want to let my customers buy this item if it's sold out. But here's what I can do, is I can say that they can go to a certain page on my website. Let's say sold out. I can call it whatever I want here. And maybe I have an offer. Say I have a different case that's just a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, and say, oh gosh, that one's sold out, but I do have this one, and because I know you're interested, I will give it, I can sell you this one for a discount, or we do have this one available, however you want to market your business. So that allows you to do that. There's other customized features in step 3 that we can use. I always want my customers to send me a message if they need to. I don't say no to that. If somebody wants to tell me that I need to let the post office know, or the postman know when they deliver it, to deliver it to the back door, I want them to not have to worry about getting a hold of me through any other means. They can just put it in right onto the invoice, and I'll get it and see it. So I say yes, but it's up to you. If physical item, I definitely do need their shipping address so I can send it out to them. But if it's an e-book or a digital item, I probably don't need that. Now, if somebody cancels the order, I may want to take them to a page on my site to give them another chance. Let's say, oh gosh, I see you've canceled this order, but if you want to continue and come back and order it again, I will give you a discount, or however you want to market your business. And then once the transaction is complete, you definitely want to let your customers know. You don't want them just to sit on PayPal. You want them to come back to your site, and you want to either get them on your mailing list, or you want to offer them a coupon, or just let them know that you've received the order. So you want to set up a page, and you want to put that page in here, that URL. Let's say I'll just call it thank you, so that when they receive, they land on that page. The final thing is advanced variables. Now, we're not going to talk about that today, but do know that if you know HTML code and you are comfortable with setting up forms, you can customize this button to heck and gone, and make it branded to your look. You can change the fields any way you want, and that's what advanced variables are all about. So now we've got this, let's create the button. And here is the code that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to grab this, copy it, and I'm going to put it on a notepad, and we're going to let Danny show us in a few minutes how to integrate this onto the website. Now, I did talk about adding to cart. Now remember again, like if this was a single item that you were putting on your page, you would do that Buy Now button, and you would not have to worry about this extra page or this extra button. But because this is an add to cart feature that I'm going to put on a static website. I'm pretending like we're not using the WordPress site here right now. Let's say I'm using an HTML to set up my website. I'm going to want to use this create a view cart button. So I click on this, and now PayPal will give me some more code that I will want to. And this is, again, you can make your own button. You can use a small button depending on how your design looks. Again, create your own button. And once you've decided that, you click on Create Button. And here's the code. And we'll want to copy and paste this in. Now, your buyers are going to be most familiar with this button up in the top right-hand corner of the page. So you probably, if it was HTML, you'd probably want to put a little table up there and put this code into it. And again, it would have to go on every page that your buyer saw, so that they could click this view cart and see what products were in their cart. Now, if you are using CSS, you could put that into a CSS style sheet to have it show up on every page. But we really do encourage you to use this WordPress plugin and use a WordPress site for simplicity. And this is one of the reasons. You don't have to worry about this view cart, because as part of the plugin, it is already installed for you. So you don't have to worry about it. But I did want to show you that if you are creating a site from scratch, you're going to have to add this view cart button. So I think that about covers it for the PayPal setup. I am going to change presenters and let Danny take it away.
Hi everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. I know we're going a little bit over, but my part is going to be pretty short. I'm going to just talk a little bit very briefly about how to make a custom button, and then we're going to paste it into WordPress, it being the code that would go with the button Cindy created. Now, she showed you how to create using the cart button, but up until that very last step where she did the add to cart, the extra piece, every single step up until then is identical to what you would do if she had created a Buy It Now button. The only thing that would change is that instead of the button saying add to cart, it would say Buy It Now. That's so that those steps would work the same no matter which one you chose. Now, you might, instead of wanting your button to say add to cart or Buy It Now, you might someday have a reason to want to use a special button. Perhaps you want to say on sale today only on your button, or click for special savings, or customer appreciation sale. You know, you might want a little bit different button. There are several ways to get them. If you do a Google search, you'll find dozens, if not hundreds, of sites that offer pre-made buttons where you can then download the button, take them into Photoshop, Photoshop Elements, or some other photo editing software that can work with PSD files usually, and change the text. I'm going to mention one here called Web Resources Depot, because when I was looking around, I thought they had some very nice e-commerce buttons. This is one set that you can download. You just click on the download button here and you get it as a zip file. Each of these will be its own button that you can use as appropriate on your website. They're kind of nice Web 2.0 looking buttons. They have some icons that you might want to use in smaller areas, a shopping cart. They have nice glossy icons where you can scale these up because they're all vectors, with money off and carts in different sizes, little baskets, and then the card sets themselves. Now, the one thing I do want to warn you about on this site, most of these will just download the picture, the image itself. When you get down here to the cart logos and images, I'm going to click on the PayPal one, and you'll see that it gives you some code here. They'll host those images, and you can copy and paste this code into your site and not have to worry about that. I would strongly urge you not to do that. You don't want to send your buyers to some other place besides, well, you won't be sending them there, but you don't want your buyer's information to have a chance of going to some other site every time someone clicks on a Visa card icon. You don't want any tracking outside of what PayPal's doing. So if you see cards that you like here, and for some reason PayPal is not showing you this option, you can just come to the cart, hover your mouse, right-click, and save picture as. That will download the image without the code, and you can host it yourself. Again, that's not something that, it's not fraud, it's not something evil, but I would just take that extra precaution. And you can find lots of these kinds of sites. But we want to show you one simple way of making your own button. Now, the Web 2.0 buttons are very popular. Everybody's doing them. And I want to show you how easy it can be. I'm going to make this button 65 pixels high, 165 wide with a white background. Now, this is a little difficult to see. So just to make sure you all can see it, I'm going to scale it up a little bit. So here's your background. It's just a plain white area that we're going to put the button on. And what we want is one of those glossy, rounded buttons that says something like, I'm just going to say buy now because I'm not feeling creative. So you go down to your rounded rectangle shape tool on the Photoshop toolbar. As far as I know, you'll be able to find this in Photoshop and Photoshop Elements, and in Elements 5, 6, 7, or 8. It's nothing new. You may not see it immediately. If you don't, hover your mouse, right-click, because there are many different shape tools included under that button. The one you want is rounded rectangle. Click on it. When you do, you'll see up in the toolbar options this radius. How big the radius is will depend on how round the button can be. You don't have to make it a huge number, but you do want to make it something around 20 or 30. I'm going to leave mine at 30. And then just take your mouse cursor, hold it down, and draw your button. We've now got a selection here. Oh, my style's already applied. Let me clear the layer style. We've now got a selection here of a button shape. I like to come over then to the Effects tab. You probably have yours set on something like drop shadows or one of the other commonly used ones. Click on that and go down to, I like to use right now, Wow Plastic, and pick a color. For buying buttons, a bright color is very good. Orange or red are the most common. I'm going to pick red. You'll see we've selected the layer. The shape layer is where we are. If I just click on red and click apply, we've already created a rounded gelatin kind of button. Now, I don't like the shadow under here, so what I do is, again, come to my layer style, click FX, and just uncheck drop shadow. Say OK. Everything else remains the same. You've done this with just a few mouse clicks. You haven't had to do anything really complicated at all in creating this button. Come over to your text tool. I'm going to change my text color to white. I'm going to change its size to 24. And I'm just going to type buy. Well, okay. Buy now. As I said, you probably are doing this because you want it to say something different than that, place the button where you want it. 24 is a tad too big, so excuse me, I'm going to change it to 20. I'm just being fussy. Now, it can be hard to center things on these buttons, so what you want to do is take the words "Buy Now," your text layer, and your shape layer. Hold your Control key so you've selected both in your layer palette, and you'll notice up here it's changed to give you a choice of Arrange, Align, and Distribute. Go to Align, and Align, I always bet on the wrong one. Align vertical centers, and it'll put it in the center of your button. I don't like it in the center. I want it down a tad. And align horizontal centers will put it dead smack in the middle of your button. So I'm going to pull this back down a little bit, and when I do, I'm going to put it off center so you can see. Align horizontal centers, and you see it just snaps it to the center for you. When we view the actual size, you've got a very nice Web 2.0 style Buy It Now button. All you have to do is maybe crop it a little bit so you don't have so much background, and then save it and upload it to your website. Tell PayPal where it is, and you've created a custom button. Of course, you're not limited to Buy Now. It can say anything you want, including the name of your store. Just be aware that it's going to be smallish type. You don't want to make it hard for your buyers to read. That's how quickly you can create a custom button using Photoshop elements. Let's go back now real quickly and add those buttons, that Buy It Now button Cindy created, to a website. Remember we did, if you watch the e-commerce website, we created this camera bag site using the shopping cart. And this is what its pages looked like with the shopping cart. We can add to cart, and it adds the cart item here. We have the drop-down list and the colors. We're going to do something very similar now with that Buy It Now button. I'm going into WordPress, and we're doing this in WordPress because WordPress and other people's code are usually not a very good match. I want to show you that you can indeed embed Buy It Now buttons in WordPress very easily, and if you can do it in WordPress, you can basically do it anywhere. I've created a new page in that site called the Buy It Now demo button page, and I want to preview that page for you. Now notice I'm not switching into my visual editor to show you what this would look like. I'm staying always on my HTML tab, and that's the key to using PayPal buttons with WordPress. So here's what this case page would look like. I don't have anywhere for people to buy it. We just have a chance for them to admire it. Ignore this. This is part of the shopping cart software. This would not show if you're not using that plugin on the WordPress site. If you're just creating buttons, you wouldn't have this shopping cart button here. So what we do is we come into our WordPress page. You have a visual tab and an HTML tab. It's crucial that you're on the HTML tab. The visual tab will break the code. Always go to the HTML tab. I created that button a little earlier, and she sent me the code. It's the Hardig storm case. You can see here there's 3 colors. It's encrypted, has various stuff we don't understand. We don't need to. I do want to caution you about one other thing. When you paste it into a notepad or other text editor, look under Format and make sure word wrap is not enabled. You don't want your lines of code to break because of word wrapping, line wrapping. These lines should be unbroken except where PayPal broke them, so make sure word wrap is off. When it is, just select all, copy. I'm going to lower that now. We're in our editor, We know what the page looks like. This is the title. These are the conditions and stuff. And this is where I'd want to put my button up at the top so people can buy now as soon as they see it. So I just paste that little bit of code in there. Put a little space between them. That's a space too much there. And I put it again at the bottom because if they get all the way down there, I want to give them another chance to buy it. Then I'm going to save this draft, and notice we've never gone into the Visual tab. I'm going to keep repeating that because your instinct is to click over there and see how it looks. Don't. Click the Preview button. If you got it in the wrong place, you'll find out soon enough, and you can fix it. But there it is. Here's our button. Here's our drop-downs. Here's our Buy Now, and here it is again at the bottom. If PayPal is cooperating, when I click on Buy Now, we'll be taken to PayPal and be given the opportunity to buy this case for $179.99. And you'll see it indicates right here that it is in yellow. It's added. I added $5 shipping. Cindy added the other amount, but whichever you chose to encode in your button would be included here. And all I'd have to do is click Update. It would ask me to log into the PayPal account, and the button is done. It's that simple to do. You would do the same thing on any website, whether it was WordPress or HTML. If you were working on a normal HTML website, you would not have to be as careful about never looking at the visual part of the editor. HTML understands form actions a lot better than WordPress does, and it would not try to scramble your code to make it match PHP standards. So you would have an easier time on a traditional website. If you were doing, and I'm not going to get into this in any kind of big way, if you were doing the shopping cart button, you would have one further step. This button, instead of saying Buy Now, would say Add to Cart. Then you'd go get that second piece of code Cindy gave you, and you'd go into Appearance and into Editor. And depending on your theme, you would have a lot of templates over here. You would have to decide where you wanted that button to appear. Choose the correct template, either the header or the page template, or perhaps the single post template, and put the view cart code in a certain section of that template. Now that's not hard to do, but it does take some back and forth and some scary moments where your theme may stop working if you put it in the wrong place or use the wrong code. And that's why we don't select to use the Add to Cart button on a WordPress site, although it works perfectly easily on an HTML site. So that's how easy it is. It's really just a question of cutting and pasting, just making sure you're on the editor that will work with your site, either the HTML tab in WordPress or any part where you can paste code on an HTML editor, and you're done. So, Cindy?
If you have any more questions, do feel free to ask them on the forum. We're always available for answering questions. And Danny, do you have any last-minute words of wisdom?
I would say that I'd encourage you to try to set up your own website and start accepting payments, even if you're just doing it in a small way, even if you're just selling 4 or 5 items. We just went through a small segment of our business involves creating custom landing pages on Facebook. And overnight, with no warning, Facebook said no more landing pages. Then they said, oh, we changed our mind, landing pages are back. Well, you know, Cindy and I were scrambling for a few hours to retool that little bit of our business. You don't want somebody else to be totally in charge of your future. If eBay one day says, No longer are you allowed to sell digital downloads, which they've done, and your model was selling ebooks and MP3 files. You don't want to find yourself out of business. You want to be at least in control of part of your market. So when you have your own website, you always have control of what you're doing and where your customers can find you. They know where you are. You're not going to disappear overnight. So set up a website. Use something as simple as the Buy It Now buttons if that works for you. Use the eStore shopping cart plugin for WordPress if that works for you. But don't rely always on a third party because their business model is not necessarily your best interest. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today for this PayPal overview, and we encourage you to ask questions on the forums, and we thank you all for being members and for coming along today to watch this webinar. For Cindy and me, this is Danny Byrne for the Web Seller Circle. Thanks for watching.